I thought I might see you here.
Oh, yes.
I come to these meetings on
Hi.
purpose.
Can you all hear us?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
Great, okay.
okay, sounds good.
And this is really odd.
Yes.
I'm picking up the camera.
We are having some technical. Is the camera on?
See a car? It's a car, I'm on there.
I forgot to.
I heard.
Oh, I just kind of. Just gonna left you.
There we go. All right.
You're up.
Now, I'm just moving it across the room. So you're good now. Just plug it in and unplug it and plug it back in. It works fine.
That's all we need.
Perfect. So you're good there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys want to use other features like zooming in and out and stuff, but you want to be a little more personal.
Yeah, I think we're gonna take it.
There you go. As you're up. Have fun.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sorry for the technical difficulties. Erin is in the airport and it's very loud, but I think she should be hearing us. And thank you everyone for joining us here in the room. We have Rob and we have Tim with the Center for Independence. Tim, I don't think you were in our last meeting, were you?
No, I just found out about this about a week ago from Joanne and this gentleman, so.
Okay. And I see Oralee, and which is with Comfort Keepers, and Amy, who's with the VA. We were gonna start with just kind of introducing new members. And I am terrible with names, so whoever was not in the last meeting, Would you like to introduce yourself? We can start with Tim. If you want to just tell us who you work for and what county area you serve.
Tim Brown, Center for Independence here in Grand Junction, and we serve, our catchment area is 12 counties here on the western slope. So quite a large area. And I'm a youth facilitator there. I have other hats that I wear, but in this capacity, I'm a youth facilitator for our youth program.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone online want to go? Anyone who wasn't in the last meeting that would like to introduce themselves?
Hi, my name is Kim Watts. I am consulting with the company Care2U and A2U Home Health. They do skilled and unskilled services. Excuse me. We would love to partner with somebody to provide respite as a secondary service. I'm so sorry. As a secondary service for our clients. And so we span the whole healthcare from birth to death. And in some of the other respite calls that I've been on, I've made some really good connections. So I'll put my information in the chat and stop coughing. Thanks, everybody.
Kim, sorry, I know that you're trying to stop coughing, but did you mention what area you cover? You are muted, Kim.
We cover the whole state of Colorado. I am actually, I started applied behavior analysis services out in Grand Junction, and have some BCBAs and nurse friends out there that would like to be able to provide more services to the underserved out there, specifically Glenwood Springs all the way west.
Anyone else that's new?
My name is Maggie Fosbury. I'm a case manager at Mesa Developmental Services, which is the CCB or Community Center Board here in Mesa County for the Medicaid funded waivers, such as like the DD waiver for adults, SLS for adults, CES, and CHIRP for kids. My coworker Alexandra McClellan was at the last meeting, but she recently moved to New York. So I'm going to be taking over as our kind of rep from MDS. And we serve Mesa County.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I wasn't here for the last meeting. This is Amy Harris. I work for the Colorado Department of Human Services, and I work pretty closely with Easter Seals Colorado in that capacity, and then also with the area agencies on aging. So really just kind of a fly on the wall for this meeting, but I'm really glad to learn about more of the respite services and opportunities and needs in Grand Junction and Mesa County and you know, that whole area. So I'm glad to be here.
And then Aura, I know John was here last time, but if you want to introduce yourself. Maybe. We'll give her a chance. Right, and Kim has put her information in the chat. Okay, well, we don't have any new people. I wanted to just kind of start to make sure that we are coming up with a purpose for this meeting. I do want this meeting to be worth your time and worth the time of everybody else that we are hoping to get us to join. We kind of talked a lot about during the first meeting what we were hoping to get out of this meeting. And you know, we had a lot of people talk about they like hearing what else is going on, they like being able to share resources. And then as well as being able to maybe troubleshoot some of the things that are going on. Maybe some of the things that are happening with procedures and policies and be able to troubleshoot some of that. And so, from all of the input, kind of what I come up with, and this is kind of my wordsmithing, so I'm not married to this idea. Happy to change anything that we need to change, but kind of what I had come up with was building collaboration by sharing resources and best practices among respite programs, providers, and caregivers. Any thoughts on that statement, on that purpose statement? From the people that were on last time, did I miss anything? Was there something that you all really do want to include on that?
I think you captured it.
Thanks, Eva. Anyone in the room, any thoughts? Tim, is that what you thought the purpose of this meeting was when they signed you up for it?
What he relayed to my colleague was it was the respite aspect of it. So she thought we'd be able to do some of that, so. Yeah.
People that have joined us today, how does that purpose statement sound to you all? Is that what you were saying up when you came to this meeting?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. That was kind of how Alexandra conveyed kind of the purpose and goal of this group.
Perfect. On the purpose of meeting that goal, does anybody have any resources to share, any events that we want to be aware of that are happening?
This is Eva. We are going to be hosting a caregiver summit on October the 6th. It'll be in Montrose at the Montrose Pavilion. And I believe we're going to do that from 1 to 4:30.
Thank you, Eva.
Do you mind, Eva, just sharing a little bit more about that? That sounds interesting to me.
So we're still in the early stages, but we have 3 speakers lined up. One of them is going to be speaking about caregiving in general. One of them is from my office. She's our lead ombudsman, and she's going to be talking about caregiving resources. And then we have a local neurologist who's going to be talking about to caregivers specifically about the kind of things he needs caregivers to communicate when there's a new diagnosis. So really our goal with this summit is to provide caregivers with tools and resources and some real takeaways and support. So there will be opportunities for vendors who provide services to older adults and respite services in particular. We won't be serving lunch or anything like that. It's just kind of a scaled back version. We used to do a really big all-day event, and this is a scaled back version of that.
Okay, great. And any cost to attend?
No.
Okay, awesome.
And for the ADRC, last time, our last meeting, I mentioned that we were gonna have a Stress Busters class coming up. We postponed the starting of it because we did not have enough people sign up. The flyers, we don't have a lot of freedom changing the flyers. There's a lot of information out there that we don't get to put on the flyer. So I was talking to Rob. Rob has actually done the class and has loved it. And so I did try to, ask him to share the word about how much it actually meant to him with the participants. So, because I can understand committing to a 9-week class is a lot of time. But, you know, we can change the flyer to really show why it's so important. So we rely on like, you know, word of mouth, and especially from previous participants to kind of gather some of our participants. So we have moved it to May 18th. We have 3 people signed up, and, you know, if we don't get enough, we're just gonna go ahead and go with that and see how that goes. But so I am just kind of putting it out there again, if anyone knows any caregivers that could really benefit from this class. You know, the goal of the class is to teach the caregivers about stress, teach how to take care of themselves. And if respite is an issue, if they cannot leave their loved ones alone, we do have respite funding to help with that. So, so that is something definitely to keep in mind. If we, if that's an issue, then we definitely, we can definitely address that barrier, which is again, not something that we can necessarily put on the flyers. The flyers, you know, when we got the flyers, it said you're allowed to change this, and that's it. So, so that's, you know, that's the difficult part. And so if that is an issue, if that is a concern at all, I do want everybody to know that we do have some ways to navigate those barriers. Let's see, Aaron said that they have been brainstorming ways to make folks somewhere they already gather weekly, you know, maybe a rehab center or public library to eliminate the additional commute and potentially provide care or respite care while they're in the program. We offer virtually right now, but we have talked about hosting it in person. You're right, it is beneficial. Thank you, Aaron. And I don't know any places that are already gathering weekly that that we could come to. We do have a really good relationship with like the Alzheimer's Association and you know, Capella, which is a memory care unit. We are trying to do the generic class, which is for any caregiver, not the dementia specific. So we haven't reached out to those places because we don't want to overload this class with dementia focused individuals when we do have a class that's specific for that. Which is why, you know, if we don't get enough people, we're just gonna go with the 3 or 4 that we have, you know, serve them, and then we're gonna start focusing on the dementia one for next time. And, you know, but I don't know as of right now, and if anybody in Mesa County, anybody that's here can think of any other places where we could reach out and say, hey, you already come once a week here, any chance you could come to this class as well, or instead, you know, I'm happy to talk about that with anyone. And I don't have the flyers, but you know, everybody is mostly virtually, so I'll make sure that I send them out after the meeting so you have them. We will be meeting at our office, which is 1129 Colorado Avenue.
You're going to send the flyers, Sandra?
Yes.
Okay, because I can send them to my caregivers.
Yes. We have,
I think I already did. When does it start?
So we changed it to start on May 18. We originally were supposed to start on April 17.
Okay.
And so that is, and like I said, the flyer doesn't really, you know, give a lot of information. So I can see why like the flyer is not our best friend on recruiting people. So yeah, but if you talk to any caregivers, or, you know, and I'll send it to you again if you want to send it out, just so that they know, like if they weren't sure the first time, maybe seeing it again, they want to do it. So yeah, I know that we had, you know,
I wanted to real quick.
Yeah.
I want to say I'm having a resource fair for my caregivers on May 16th. Sandra, I think you know about it, but a resource fair and a summit, all are invited. It'll be on May 16th from 10 to 4 at the Western Region 1 source. This is, I work at the VA, just FYI.
And Amy, for this specific fair, do they have to be veterans or caring for a veteran?
They have to be caregivers of veterans.
Okay.
Yes, that's the only people we can serve.
Are we talking professional caregivers?
No, not professional caregivers. We're talking
Just
family caregivers.
Family caregivers, yeah,
Yes.
Yes, if you can we can let our family know.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, we'd love to see them.
Thanks.
Mhm.
That's right. Comfort Keepers is one of your providers, right, for veterans, one of your main providers.
Yes, we have quite a few
I
families
bet you do. Yeah.
on the western slope all over.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. If they don't, yeah, let them know, because if they're not in my program, I don't.
I think
It's hard to reach them.
the last year's resource, are you looking, was that last year's? There was a resource for caregivers.
There was one. This is our third annual resource fair and summit.
Okay. Are you guys renting booth, or I don't know how else to?
No, it's here at the Western Region One Source. We'll have everything ready if you want to set up a table. If you want to have a table, we'll have a table for you. It's no cost.
Okay.
And then
Send us the flyer, please.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
This is great and needed.
I will just send it out to the group.
Okay, perfect.
Does that work? If
Yes.
it doesn't apply to you, just delete it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
And Amy, if I owed you a response, we would want to be there. I'm sorry if I haven't replied. So that
I
you know.
feel like you have.
Okay, all right.
I feel like you have. I'm not sure either. So,
Yeah, okay, cool.
okay. So it's good to know. If you haven't, I'll just put you down.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
There we
Thank
go.
you, Sandra.
Any other fairs, resources coming up? All right, I think the next thing we just kind of wanted to look at some things, kind of determining what we wanted to focus on. But I think the, kind of before we move into that, Rob had brought up some, forms and questions from the Respite Coalition. Right?
Yeah, this is Aaron.
okay.
Yeah, I think Aaron sent this out to the group. It's the, what's the key ingredient for a successful, sustainable coalition? And so it's got some ideas on it that I thought we could use as a framework, just to see if we've got all of the potentials involved. And if we don't, and we want to bring anybody to the table, this is a good place to kind of check mark that. But it's the Arch National Respite Network. It's got a bunch of people on it, and then a little checklist with 4 columns on it. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but I like the already existing resources, so I printed it out so I could help guide us.
Is there a place where I could get it online and whatever
Yeah,
I can share it?
Yeah, I can send it out.
Yeah, if you want to put the link in the chat and then I can click on it. And we can kind of go over it. Yeah, so I figure we can kind of focus on moving in progress. Okay, can we? Sorry, everyone, didn't want to make your ears hurt there. Yeah, so I'll put it, Rob will send me the link. Oh, actually, Amy, is that what you just sent? Yes, that is what you just sent.
Thanks, Amy.
There we go. I'll share it. That way we can take a look at it. We're looking at the same thing. All right. So can you all see it? Okay. Okay. So what's the key ingredients for a successful, sustainable coalition? A diverse group of people working together to achieve a shared vision. People in successful collaboration partnerships believe change is possible and goals can be achieved. Coalition members belong to and are connected with at least one of the systems in the checklist. Sustainable Coalition has a core team of at least 3, the backbone of the coalition. They are knowledge keepers, connectors, and champions. Among the members are people with decision-making authority, which we have Amy Harris here. She has some decision-making authority. Connected to others with influence, knowledge, Center for Independence and ADRC, we're kind of one of the first stops for people looking for any kind of knowledge. With firsthand experience as a family caregiver or a care recipient. So we do have Rob here, perfect. And so let's see. Okay, and it just says, fun fact, the number of meetings people attend is not a reliable indicator of successful collaborations. A better indicator is the quality of the relationship within that group. And so this is just kind of like, who do we want, who are the people in your coalition, who do we have, and who do we want to try to reach out to? So, for example, faith communities, do we have anyone from a faith community?
I not that I know of, but that is just in our area, what a great way to reach, to talk about the need, but also to equip them as potential caregivers themselves, whether it's their organization or my daughter's a youth, they're in the youth category. So, one of their youth groups, maybe that could be an area, if we equip them well, that period of time could help give the caregiver a break as well. That's an already existing event that with just a few sustainable supports or a little more knowledge or just some extra training for the teams that are already doing this. That's just one that comes off the top of my mind.
Yeah, I know that so I recently was in another meeting with the Respite Coalition, and there were a lot of programs, I think they had like 3 or 4 presenters, and at least 3 of those programs, I believe, were kind of started from a faith-based community. And so I think that when we look at potentially meeting, identifying gaps in the community and addressing them, I think that it would be important to have someone from the faith community here. And so if everybody's okay with that, Rob and I can kind of work on getting some of that. But if anybody knows any faith communities.
I was a pastor for 25 years, and this was definitely, and worked with youth very much, and with some of the aging population. And I'm involved in Canyon Vineyard quite a bit here. And this is something that they should be at.
Yeah.
I really believe they should be at. So I'll get the word out to them. And I'm also, Amy may know about this, I'm also part of a coalition for highly mobile youth. Paula Jumina, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the head of the state foster care at the state. And we're doing this kind of the same thing, trying to build a more of a regional collaboration and conversation about how to meet the needs of McKinney, Vento youth and other youth that are on the move. So I don't know, I'm seeing a little crossover effect here, trying to put it all together in my mind, but.
And if we ever, I think like we're just getting started. So like if we ever get to the point where we are merging with other communities, I think the important thing is kind of keeping that purpose in mind. Sure. That if we can do that with keeping that purpose in mind, I think that we can always consider it as a group. But yeah, I think that is important. We have the next thing on the list is private sector nonprofit organizations. So we did have Teresa with Hilltop in Montrose here last time. I'm not sure if she was able, why she wasn't able to join today. Hopefully we will have her back next time. I also represent, Hilltop. Our office is located at the Family Resource Center, and can definitely bring some of that back. But are there any other nonprofit organizations that we think should have a seat at this table? And, you know, I can speak from the Mesa County side of things sometimes, but, you know, this is the Western Slope Respite Coalition. So if there's anybody in your counties, please do feel free to share that.
Region 10 is also nonprofit. But we also have an organization here called Welcome Home Alliance for Veterans. That it probably makes sense to reach out to them.
Eva, would you be able to reach out to them?
Yeah.
and-
I'm making myself a note right now.
Perfect. Anyone else that, any other nonprofit organizations that either, you know, provide respite, they have decision-making power, political clout and connections, or that may have a personal experience with respite?
Just wonder why you have it right here.
We also had, Rocky Mountain Health Plans, which was, or United now, which is our single entry point line. It doesn't seem like they were able to join today either, so I can always follow up with them and make sure that, we're making it work for them.
And I would add on that, the new Monument Health would be a great organization to be aware and can offer that, because they are in the middle of some of the healthcare components. And to kind of tag on that is the care coordination at some of the major physicians' offices, with them being a key component of kind of providing some of those resources and information. It'd be great to equip them with the tools as well.
Yes. I had reached out to community regarding all of their primary care offices across Mesa County. And, you know, it seemed like there was someone that was interested in joining, but I have not heard back from them, and I'm not sure that they got the message that this was happening, so I can follow up with them. Rob, you had talked to St. Mary's Family Practice, right?
Yeah.
And ADRC has a relationship with the care coordinators there, so I can follow up with them as well. And so that was kind of regards to the healthcare sector here. We do have a few private businesses. I think Comfort Keepers is the only one here right now. Nope, it's not. we
People
just
Care
heard-
as well.
Huh?
People Care, we're a private business.
Yep, that's right. There you are. And then we just had heard from, see, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, terrible with names. We had heard earlier today from, Kim. Kim is also part of the private sector. Anyone else that we think, you know, we want to bring to the table?
Are we looking for respite providers to bring to the table? Is that part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
When I think of private sector businesses, and employers, I think mostly of, you know, respite providers, people that can actually,
Okay.
organizations that actually provide respite.
So through our waivers, we have agencies that provide respite that I can always reach out to and kind of give them information on that. From my understanding of what my coworker explained is there could be like grant funding that agencies could get and receive to provide respite, or am I confusing information?
No, I mean, that is kind of part of the sharing resources and even like best practices is on our last meeting, we had a list of potential grants that people could apply for. And that is something that we would bring up, sorry. It is something that we could bring up, having Erin here and having Amy here when there is that opportunity for respite grants. That is something that we would want to make sure this group is aware of, so that we can, making sure that the agencies have the funding that they need to provide those services would be another way to make sure that we're meeting those respite needs.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we have a couple agencies that provide respite, especially for kids, that I can, some of them are called Respite Essentials, Inner Peace Respite Services, Strive, and then Aerial Clinical Services all provide respite to our clients through the waiver. So I can definitely pass this information along to see if they'd like to kind of join the group.
Yeah, that would be great. I am wondering, would it be beneficial if I can create like a flyer with?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I was going to ask if there was something like that. So I can make sure I don't explain how I'm seeing it, like we can get it in writing so I can make sure I fully represent kind of what the group is about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I can create something kind of with a purpose statement and what the goal is. And then maybe we can also, I can reach out to some of the people that were in the first meeting that didn't make it to this meeting just to see if it was like time constraint or, if it was a one-time thing or if this wouldn't work at all. But we can also get like a set day. I think most meetings have like third Thursday of every month or third Monday of the month, or so we can come up with a good like ongoing time. The way when we're talking to people about it, they know when it will be. So would that work?
Yeah, that sounds great on my end.
Perfect. So I'll send it out. Send it out. Maybe I'll send it to Erin and Rob and Eva to get some feedback before I send it out to everybody. But we'll try to get it out here in the next couple of weeks to everyone so that you all can help with recruiting. Let's see. Any volunteer organizations and clubs that we can think of that would be good to invite to the table? Or charitable foundations?
We have several foundations in the area that, at least might be good to inform them so that they can be a part of, just the overall goals, but trying to think the Rocky Mountain Health Foundation, and then I'm gonna say it wrong, but the Western, something to do with Western Colorado Foundation. They're big for just our whole area. Does anybody know the name? I might have drawn a blank.
Well, I don't make up the top of my head. Well, okay. Any other foundations that anybody can think of, maybe that they're active in their side of the state or in the region of the state?
Has the ARC of Mesa County been mentioned? I might have overheard.
I sent a couple different invites to their director locally, and I haven't gotten any feedback one way or the other. Maybe sending that to the state ARC of Colorado, and they can distribute it to the various branches that are throughout Western Colorado. So more than just Mesa, but I know they operate in several other locations.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. If our Mesa is, busy and unable to attend, we can definitely try to get in from other areas. Yeah. And this is definitely something that we can keep in mind. Like, as you all can see, we have a a low attendance this time compared to, we had 18 people join in the very first meeting. And so, I mean.
What
well,
about
yeah,
the one group that I highlight to me is the legislators and legislators and policymakers. Is that worth reaching out to and asking and possibly bringing? Because I don't always know that they have a full understanding of the need. And so sometimes policy and legislation gets made that doesn't always include the stakeholders that it's serving. So I've had good luck with working with legislators, so I'd be happy to reach out to them and do that myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good idea, see who, and then we, see who's willing to sit at the table, but also like letting them know that we do exist, so that even if they're not coming in every single time, they know that we can provide that information if they were to have a bill or something that they wanted, like the individual's input in, or the affected individual's input in. Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, we will try to continue to grow, or at least making sure that we're having what the kind of what this this flyer mentions, some of the important participation regarding all of these areas. And so I think we are a really good start. I think we can just keep getting better from here. So, all right, I'll stop sharing this, but yeah, definitely if anybody feels that they have identified someone that meets, falls within those guidelines and wants to invite them to the table, we will set something out to make sure that we are reaching everyone, and sharing our purpose and the purpose of the coalition with everyone that we are inviting. So, kind of same thing what I was mentioning with the flyer. Sometimes if the flyer doesn't really explain what it is, people may not want to join. So we'll make sure we'll send something out there that's clear. And then let's see, I'm just trying to catch up with the chats. Erin mentioned Alliance for Veterans. I'm not familiar with them. But definitely whoever it is welcome to invite them. And then she also said that they have included several grant opportunities in the newsletter that went out today. And they can send it to anyone who's in their mailing list. So if anybody would like to know about those grant opportunities, let Erin know. All right. The next thing is just on the purpose of kind of, trying to fulfill our purpose. I wanted to just kind of have a conversation about what we wanted to focus on as a coalition. There were a lot of ideas thrown around the last meeting. I think everyone that is here today is really interested in making respite resources better. And so, during the last meeting, we talked a lot about the need, about the lack of information, people not knowing where to go. And so these are some of the things that kind of, again, from my notes, kind of what I gather. If anybody feels, wants to add anything else, or if we feel like there's something else we need to focus on first, we can definitely bring it up. But some of the ideas that came up was doing an information night and other education opportunities for caregivers, creating a digital platform where resources can live, maybe a newsletter. I know Erin kind of brought up, they do a newsletter. And then also the other purpose would be identifying gaps in the community and, a way to address them. I kind of have put that all the way to the back because I think that might be the most difficult one, but if the group wants to jump right in, you know, always happy to. What are everyone's thoughts on that? What do you, out of the three, what do you all think that would be the most important to focus on? Could even be the easiest one to implement, maybe just to get something easy out of the way? Or is there anything else that's more important that should be on the list? Who wants to go first? All right, Rob, you go first. What are your thoughts on those?
I think having the information night's a great resource. I missed out on what respite care was over the years for many of our last 16 years. And so highlighting the importance of just taking good care of ourselves as caregivers is pretty passionate for me, because I often think of if we're not well cared for, well, who's going to come and step in our place? And so one avenue that we're doing, and I don't know if this is time to brainstorm or think about it, but is the storytelling component, and how if we have some caregivers or organizations but can get a concise story put together and in the information night forum be able to just highlight that, because I think connecting it to the personal journeys is real important. But also, as we know, it's hard to step into a new, another program, another system. And for me, it's very, very important, and it's just really needed in our area, because it's just tough, it's hard. And so I don't know what I'm saying here completely, but more so of the information I think should include personal stories. And so highlighting that in the planning.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on?
I like the information nights, but I also think as we go along, the most important thing we'll come to is identifying the gaps in the community. And I think that's going to be a process that we arrive at as we meet and things start rolling and we get more feedback and understand what everybody does and what they're capable of doing and providing, that we'll have a better idea of what those gaps are.
Yeah. Definitely. Anyone in the computer would like to share?
I'm just a little concerned about how we would make it a regional thing if we're gonna do it in one place. So I guess, we could do one in this area as well.
Yes, that's, yeah, definitely. I think one point that we identified kind of what our first was the thing that we want to tackle on first, which if we do decide to do the information nights, I think it would be important to identify 3 different places where to do it, at least, Mesa County, Montrose and Delta, but then also keeping in mind the other side, Garfield and Broward. Obviously, we can always start with, maybe Mesa County, if we have most of the providers here, and if that's a little bit easier, we could start with that and then see how that's going, and then go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
I was thinking with Rob's storytelling note, stories they're very powerful. And he also happened to bring up legislators and policymakers, and those two go together in my mind, because if this group is able to get to a point of making an ask for a policy change, then having stories to back that up, and especially having people that are willing to testify to back that up is going to be powerful. That may not happen right away. It would take a lot of work to think about what kind of policy changes you'd be advocating for and how to organize around that. But if there were a storytelling component to the info nights, then trying to come up with some sort of way to capture them in a way that, you know, either recording them somehow or, you know, having people write stories so that you have like a database of stories around respite needs on the Western Slope, then I think that could really be useful. We're kind of doing that with, I'm on a dementia, actually, so is Megan. We're on this team of people who's trying to implement this dementia state plan that we just put together last year. And that's one of the goals, is to collect stories specifically from folks who live with dementia and their caregivers. Because when we have that all compiled together, then when it is time for policy change, it's like you can really be a lot more influential when you have the human element there. So I really like that idea, however it might come across, however it ends up getting organized.
Yeah, and to me, you know, having a digital platform where we can all access this, that kind of seems, you know, important to me, and we could be working on both at the same time, obviously. But I think, you know, one of the main goals we said is just making sure that we all know what's going on, what events are happening, what resources are out there for our caregivers. And so that would be part of it, but that also would be a great place where those personal stories could lead. Where, you know, maybe Rob writes something about how great Stress Busters was, and the next time we have a virtual one coming up, or another in-person one, then we can pair it with, you know, with that story to explain, you know, why it's so beneficial. And you know, like thinking about the logistics of it, it would be something where we probably would have to sign a or, you know, have the individuals understand that the whole respite coalition would be able to use their stories. And all of us taking advantage of that for the programs that we have, for, you know, for the benefits that we have, because trying to get caregivers to take a break can be like pulling teeth sometimes. And I definitely can see that being beneficial for anyone in this community, whether it's providers that approve respite, telling people how important that is, you know, to the providers that are providing the respite, you know, explaining why it's so important, you know, to just advocates out there trying to explain to people why it's so important. I think that could be really beneficial. I would like to get some feedback from anyone else on the phone, especially if you don't serve Mesa County. What are your thoughts on this, trying to tackle any of these tasks?
I think for me, some of what we were kind of looking for was, you know, I think the resources and being able to share that information. I know for us, as an agency, we service the entire state of Colorado. And so most of our other offices don't know, you know, where to provide caregivers who need respite assistance. You know, it's a question that comes up often, and they don't know where to refer them to, who to refer them to for additional support, you know, funding for that, where to get, you know, self-care resources, things like that. And so I think having that information somewhere where it's easy to access and we can share it with our caregivers and provide these events and things is super important for us, because it gets them in contact with people who can help them and with other groups and organizations that can provide that support. And so I think it would be beneficial to have somewhere, you know, that we can get all this information set up and have that communication amongst ourselves and share those stories and share these events and things like that all together.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think you bring up a good point, Miranda. I think it would be important to have a place where we can all find the information. As we do the informational nights, especially, so we can put them out there as well for everyone that may not be able to make it to the meetings.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Do we have a place that we can start hosting? I'm thinking on the website that the toolkit for the regional coalitions, for some reason that keeps coming to mind, but do we have a place to host a calendar currently? Erin, Megan, Amy?
Erin said not yet. Yeah, and so.
We do, I'll speak on Erin's behalf because I think since she's in the Loud Airport, she feels hesitant to, to speak. I know some about this. So we've, the Colorado Respite Coalition is doing a website revamp. And part of that, and to be honest, it's not the first thing that's going to be revamped, but it is, on the list, is to have some kind of a calendar, like an events calendar or something like that. Now, this would be statewide, so I don't know if there could be ways to, maybe filter by location or things like that, those could be considerations for building the calendar. Also, calendars are kind of tough to maintain, you'd have to be able to know that people would send you information and have someone to update it. So calendars can be a little bit tough, but we have talked about housing something at the Colorado Respite Coalition that would be basically an events calendar for caregivers and respite providers and caregivers of all kinds as well. So it could be that maybe it's a filterable calendar, something like that, where we could house some of this information. For now, what we've been doing is just, if there's an event coming up, it'll be on the homepage. Or Erin also in her newsletters will advertise events and that sort of thing too. And then also posting on social media. But for like a home base, maybe CRC, maybe the Colorado Respite Coalition.
So it sounds like the Colorado Respite Coalition would be a good option. With not sure how long, the time frame, which is, okay. I know Erin has shared with me and Rob and Eva Google folder, just with different information. So that could be a quick solution, like knowing that the ultimate goal would be the CRC website. But maybe having, even if, like a link to a place where we could put all of this stuff and people could find it. Along with that, we could create a shared Google Calendar. And Megan brought up, which we kind of talked about, potentially like a regional coalition newsletter that could get sent out, and that could include a calendar for the next couple months. If we're meeting every other month, if we ever go quarterly, then we would do something quarterly wise. So those are some good options. The reason why I brought up the Google site or folder is because if our ultimate goal is to do the Respite Coalition website, I wouldn't want us to spend our time trying to create something that will be temporary. Any thoughts on kind of like the Google documents? Just anyone that's on the call, do they have any issues accessing those? Because I know every network is different. So if we decided to go with the Google Calendar, or at least with the Google folders for now, would anyone have any issues accessing it?
No, I think that's great. It's a great, easy resource to get to, and you can use it so many ways.
Yeah.
And I want to say also that we can all, if you do decide to go with the Google Calendar, we can always link it. But I wouldn't want you to put too much effort into creating a new calendar, since that is our plan, to tie everything together. So. Yeah,
and definitely if we decide to go, that's why I was suggesting the Google Files. But yeah, I don't know that we necessarily want to create a Google Calendar. But if we do decide to do a newsletter, we probably would have some sort of calendar template to use.
Sure.
In the meantime.
Okay.
Well, and then question on the coalition's calendar, would it be more of events that you guys are hosting and participating in, or would it be just all events that we provide?
I would say, and again, this is my thoughts, everybody jump in. I would say any resource that we know is going on regarding, caregivers, support for caregivers of any kind of respite.
And I see that as a benefit of joining the meetings and joining the coalition. That could be a potential, what can I get out of it? It could be an opportunity for that as well.
Yeah.
It goes out to all of this group and the interested parties, so might be a good selling point.
Yeah, because I know, that's a really good point, Rob, because I know trying to advertise for an event that you're having is very difficult sometimes. We're struggling with getting enough people for the Stress Busters class, and so I think that would be a really good outcome out of this meeting is we tap into everybody else's sphere of influence, into everybody else's network to make sure to get the word out there. I would be okay with opening it up to people that are not in the meeting. If we get anything wrong, maybe they can join the meeting and make sure we get it right. I think that, if they're putting their information out there and it's coming across us, I think that we could share it. Unless anybody sees any major concerns with that.
I agree. I think that's a great idea.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amy had brought up a thought of social media. How do we all feel about social media? Does your organization use it? Do you all personally use it? Would that be a good way to reach individuals and put the information out there? Rob, as a parent, do you use social media to
I
find
use
resources?
it like a tool every day. So yeah, I use social media to share resources, to share the story, to share pictures of the triumphs and the defeats. And so for me, it's a powerful tool, and I can reach people at any hour that way, because they usually, when they're taking their time and have that 15 minutes in the bathroom or in the quiet of wherever you're at, or it just works real well for me. So I'm a big proponent of it. I know it has its drawbacks and challenges, but at the same time, for accomplishing the purpose, I see it as a very good tool, and it's free.
It's free.
Erin uses it. Colorado Respite Coalition has its accounts. But she also noted it's hard to get engagement too. But I wonder if maybe a supportive way that this group could interact is just by following each other's accounts and liking each other's accounts. And, kind of like if we get a little momentum basically behind, other posts and stuff, then maybe that can start to build a little bit bigger followings too, because it's tough, I think, to, you're trying to find caregivers on social media. That's what we're really trying to do, is find caregivers so we can link them with websites. But I think they can be a little bit tough to find. But maybe with our powers combined, if we're all paying attention to each other's posts, then that could be a way that this coalition could build a little bit of a net and then build a little momentum for socials. I know that Erin updates Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, I can't remember if we do anything with Twitter. I don't really think so. Yeah, no Twitter. Okay, but Facebook and Instagram for sure. And then YouTube, we have videos on YouTube as well.
ADRC has a webpage, or Facebook, if anybody wants to go follow it. We haven't jumped into Instagram yet. I am the one that updates it. I forget to sometimes, or I forget to. I try to upload the picture at the right time and then I forget. So it's definitely something. And again, Erin, I can see you know, we don't know how effective it is, and that's kind of why I had asked Rob, because I think it's hard to measure the effectiveness. If our goal is to let people know the respite works, or for them to know how beneficial it could be, that's gonna be harder to measure, because I think anybody learning about respite is gonna be a success, but we don't know who's not learning about respite. Yeah, and so, you know, we can talk about if that's what, if we wanna dedicate some time for that. I kind of like the idea, Amy, of kind of following each other, following our current pages. And then seeing, you know, kind of what momentum we're seeing from there, seeing what engagement we're having from there. And then revisiting it, because I don't, hearing Rob saying that it is useful for him, I don't want to put it too far in the back of my head, because I do know that is one of the easiest things a lot of people do get on Facebook, but, you know, or Instagram.
And I'll say too, is the ancillary audience, the secondaries, the people that just hear the story and think to themselves, oh, I didn't realize that help would be so valuable, or just some of the outliers that aren't necessarily the first layer of targeting, but more so the people that you'd want to know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is so hard to measure like the effectiveness, because I can think of like if a child sees how difficult it is for their mom to care for their grandma, maybe they agree to, you know, maybe they ask their mom and ask to help with how going through the not professional, but professional routes, I don't know. So yeah, I think it's definitely something we can kind of come back to and see. Does everybody, who all has a page, like a Facebook page or Instagram page, like say ADRC has one? I think Miranda with People Care is raising her hand. Can't see everyone in the screen, so.
Yeah, Mesa Developmental Services has a Facebook that my directors run, I believe. But again, I think it is hard to kind of like assess how many people, I don't really go on Facebook, but I do know they post. But again, like it's hard to tell who that reaches and is it effective, and are people kind of following up with what's out there. But we definitely have a Facebook group, so we can do kind of whatever through that. We can post stuff on our end too, if we decide that's a good route for us as a group.
Maggie, you said you personally don't really use Facebook. Do you use any other type of social media?
No, not really. But I am kind of, my peers do. So that is definitely something. I know Twitter is a big one. And I know Facebook, just in this community, from what I've seen, seems to be pretty big still, in terms of kind of like, we just have a Facebook. I mean, maybe we have a Twitter, but I think the only thing we use is Facebook.
Okay. It sounds like caregivers use Facebook groups a lot, so Center for Independence is a Facebook. I don't think I can follow them.
Yeah, she's been a good one to run to this. Catherine Lopez does it for us. She should be at this meeting actually too.
Or, you know, you bring back all of our flyers
Yeah,
and make her put them up there.
there you go.
Yeah. Miranda, do you have both Facebook and Instagram, or just Facebook?
I believe we have Instagram, Facebook. Oh, and I think there's another one that we use.
Okay.
Yeah, we have our recruiters. Sorry, our recruiters and our executive team manage our social media sites.
Okay. That's good to know. Because I think with social media too, what's popular can be so different, and then obviously we have to keep in mind the target population. So I'm glad to hear Erin said that the caregivers do continue to use Facebook groups a lot. Megan said that there are services like Food Suite, which you can use to schedule and track posts, anything they have nonprofit pricing, possibly free. Something to keep in mind. So it looks like we touched on all three of the focus areas. I think we all agree that identifying gaps in the community and addressing them is very important, but maybe we're not gonna be making any policy changes right now. But it can definitely be an underlying goal, you know, of everything that we talk about. We can definitely bring things up and keep them in the back of our mind as we're working towards these two other points. I think doing the digital platform would be really good, figuring out where we want all the information to live. And then the informational nights, I think that would be very important as well. So I think it could be beneficial to start working on both. If nobody has an issue accessing Google, we could kind of start working on the setup for that and sending it out. And making sure that we're sending everything to everyone that's in this meeting right now, everyone that's in our list. But also if there is anyone that you are inviting to the meetings that want to make sure that they get the invite, feel free to send them to me and Aaron. And we will go ahead and invite them to the next meetings and invite them to the mailing list and making sure that we are sharing all the details about. A few items to kind of clean up items. I wanted to ask, does any platform work better for you all? I have access to Teams and I can, you know, create the appointments through Teams. Does anybody prefer Zoom over Teams over, well, I don't think we have access to Google, so. Anybody prefer Zoom over Teams or have issues, strong issues against one platform or another?
Speaking from blind and low vision community, Zoom's pretty accessible compared to just in general. So thinking long-term and if we bring everybody to the table, but it's more so, I don't think that there's a big deal in either or, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Zoom has some better security when you have multiple people from different locations and different entities coming in than what Teams has. You know, company-wise, we were using Teams for a long time, and then but anytime we were doing external stuff with people, we were having to use Zoom just for security purposes and things like that for your Teams accounts. So I think Zoom has just a little bit more protection than the Teams does, but same functionality.
We can keep going with Zoom. Hopefully Erin will be traveling the next time. If she is, we can, yeah, we can log in from her and we can make sure we have access to that. I also wanted to bring up, I believe, and my memory could be faulty, but I thought we kind of, last time we brought up the idea of continuing to do this hybrid, having some people in person, having some people virtually. It does look like the majority of the individuals that joined us were virtually. Does anybody have a strong preference one way or another to continue to do things hybrid, or do we want to just go virtually for accessibility purposes? Two people that can hear in person.
I'm better in person, I'll fall asleep on those things.
I mean, just in light of relationships and trying to build on that, the in-person is good, but also we're trying to cover all of Western Colorado as the coalition. So we're not going to be able to. So I value both, and I'm of the generation, definitely grew up with the internet a lot, but at the same time, I do value the personal relationship that you can gain just from the before and after and the chit chat and some of that, but I value the accessing from everywhere too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miranda.
I like the hybrid, because I do not live, I do not live locally. I actually live in northern Colorado. And so I travel in and out of the Western Slope each month. And so there's times where I'm not local to be able to attend in person. I would ultimately like to have an in-person rep, one of my RNs that would attend with you guys in person, and I would still have the capability of being VO and participating as well. So I do like being able to come in person if I'm in town, and then VO when I'm not.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great feedback. I also like in person better. I, can engage better in person. And so, yeah, I'm happy to keep doing both. I can check with Bank of the Rockies and see if this room is available. And, again, just for the purpose when we create the flyer, just so we do have a location and hopefully a link and all of that. So with the people that are in the meeting today, is there any recurring days that we should stay away from in order for you all to be able to make the meeting?
I think Thursdays fall really well for me. Thursdays, Fridays, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, sometimes even Mondays are pretty hectic getting the week started. And, I have 15 staff members in office. So a lot is usually going on in the early week and it dies down towards the end of the week.
I can never do Thursday afternoon, the fourth Thursday, and most Friday afternoons.
I don't know that I would make anyone join a meeting on a Friday afternoon either.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so we could try for like the second Thursday of every month.
Those work good for me.
Okay. Sorry, every other month? Do we want to stick with every other month? Perfect. Second Thursday.
Looking at what that is for that day.
And I will try to get some feedback from the individuals that join our first meeting that I have a working relationship with, just to make sure that that is also, that's not an issue. Because this would have been the second Thursday of every month, or of this month, so just making sure that that doesn't create any scheduling issues for anyone that really wanted to be here from the first meeting. And let's see, we have about 10 minutes left. So with that, I would say our next meeting, we're kind of focusing on talking a little bit more about information nights. What we think, I would say, let's start thinking of where do we want to have it? What do we want it to be on? And maybe start, that we'll spend some time talking about potentially having our first one. And then, keeping in mind that the social media aspect, do we want to start going that way? And then, Rob said that would be the 13th, so we're waiting for 4th of July, so that's good. Any other thoughts? So the last thing on our agenda, which was another thing that we kind of wanted to, kind of the purpose of this group would be that collaboration. We all work with families sometimes that can't access resources. And so one of the things that I think we talked about always including in the agenda is there any situations that anybody needs to troubleshoot, like any clients that their needs are not being met, that you're wondering if you could help, or anything like that at all? to bring it back again, I made this agenda from my memory and my notes that aren't always very clear. Would everyone find it valuable to have a time to troubleshoot some of those difficult clients or some of those difficult situations? I know that quite a few people had to leave. Is that, including Erin, she's leaving. Do we want to put this at the beginning of the agenda, maybe when we're sharing resources? Is it okay to put it towards the end?
So coming from a complex needs space, I think that's a great idea, because a lot of our situation specifically, but I can imagine it being useful to just help break that up with the whole team that's involved in, you know, the power of the hive, as we call it in our world, but the hive mind works very well for those special situations. And sometimes there may not be a need, and that's okay too, but giving that space and time is, from a family's perspective, that would be valuable.
I think this is also where we're gonna start to see those gaps. You know, troubleshooting some of those cases or talking about some of those cases. That is gonna show a lot of the gaps and kind of fuel that last point in our focus areas is, you know, really seeing what we're missing in the area. Because there might be times when even when we're all together, there's not a solution for that situation. There just truly is nothing there. But that means we can go to the top of our list of things that to troubleshoot. I think that, so I did, and Amy from the VA was here earlier, and I don't, you know, she had to leave, which is why I was asking if maybe we wanted to move it up. I did have a question from her that I wanted to bring up to the group. Let me make sure I get it. So her question was, she has a young guy with schizophrenia who needs supervision, you know, which would be respite. It would be, if she was asking if we knew any agencies in town who would provide kind of more like hanging out and making sure they're making good decisions and redirect if not. Has anybody had to deal with anything like that? Do you know anyone in the area that can help provide that type of supervision, respite?
That sounds like a mentoring, a little bit of a mentoring situation.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, you know, I know our home care agencies, when it comes to like dementia, they can do a lot of that supervision. But I wasn't sure how often agencies were having to do this for mental health and if that was something that you all had experience with.
We can do it under our agency. You know, a lot of times it comes down to the caregiver. You know, does the caregiver have the experience and the capacity to provide that level of care? A lot of times for us right now, you know, with the caregiver shortage and things like that, it depends on the area. You know, what does our caregiver pool look like in that area? And so, you know, it's always something we can do. It's just whether or not we have the staff and the appropriate staff to do it.
I wonder if there's a mental health peer program that could help with that.
So there is the mental health waiver through the SEP, the single entry point, which in Mesa County is Rocky or United now. So that would be my first thought of, are they on that waiver? Do they qualify? Because I just looked it up and respite and mentorship are both services that are provided under that waiver. My other thought potentially could be that the waivers that we serve clients with intellectual and developmental disabilities, children and adults. And so they do offer that type of service, whether that be respite or mentorship. So these agencies are used to providing that. It's just their funding comes through our waiver. So that would be something that I could reach out once I get that flyer, because potentially they could somehow get funding outside of waiver for clients that also are needing that in kind of our community.
Yeah. The only downfall for the mental health waiver, for that waiver with your Medicaid is that, if they are just looking for that supervision, the oversight, like the protective oversight and engagement, you have to do personal care. So you can't claim those non-personal care tasks if you're not doing at least one personal care task, which sometimes becomes a challenge, is they won't let somebody do any personal care for them, and then we don't have anything we can use.
Oh gosh, that's super interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and like I said, we did have a representative last night from the set, but yeah, I know the resident, their mental health waivers it doesn't seem to serve the needs of the mental health individuals actually. And I'm hopeful that would change when it all changes in 2024 with the new integration. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some fun things to go through on that. And that was kind of my suggestion, Maggie, was maybe Ariel or Mosaic could help. I just didn't know that they take like private pay, if they could private pay, or if they could apply for like a respite voucher through someone. Do they take private pay?
So I'm not quite sure exactly. I couldn't speak for them. I know that they are pretty open. All of our agencies are pretty open to like helping the community and kind of being a good community partner. So I think that they would be potentially open to that. I know some of my other agencies do have like private contracts or kind of do their own thing, especially when we have clients for kids that are like in DHS custody. DHS will kind of finagle like their own kind of financial funding for certain services. So I know most of our agents are pretty open to it, but I wouldn't be able to tell obviously until we kind of send that out. But I do think it would be beneficial just because a lot of our clients, not to say that those places are specifically trained in mental health, but mental health is very, it touches, every single population. So it's definitely something that we have staff that I've known that are able to kind of handle that and are kind of experts on that, but it's, designed more towards the intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Yeah, that's kind of why I had thought maybe some of the Mosaic and Ariel. We did have someone from Ariel last time that they could not make it this time. But yeah, I think that those are some of the things that I thought. I do think that mental health, it is one of those needs that it's not being met. So we can add it to our list of unmet needs. But yeah, wanted to bring it up to the team and see if anybody else had any other thoughts or any question or any, creative ideas. So
Yeah, those are the ones we have the hardest time helping get resources. There's just so minimal, and even getting into, mental health facilities for medication, remanagement and things like that is so hard for them. It's we spend a lot of time with the few that we have that we need to help support in that way and advocating for them to get what they need.
yeah, and it is hard, and I haven't heard much about the changes necessarily how they're going to address that, but I think it is really interesting that the mental health support waiver doesn't quite meet the needs of our mental health individuals that are in the waiver. So, so yeah, definitely good things to keep in mind, good conversations. Thank you everyone for joining. I look forward to seeing you all in 2 months, and we'll be sending out some emails with information.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. How to get